Does anyone else ever do that thing where you say a word like over and over and over until it sounds like super weird? Community, 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 community. That's a weird word.
What's up, cool kids?
Yeah, we out here teaching, showing God's love to everyone that we're reaching. Don't forget we'll be here for the Wednesday Live. Come on out, we know how to have a good time.
All right, so everything we've talked about in this series so far, it all happens in community. Community, 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 community. Our desires, our habits, our stories, all of these things are formed and shared in community. You and I, we're not just random individuals who happen to be around other people. No, we're communal beings. Human beings are communal at our very core. In the first pages of the Bible, God says it's not good for humans to be alone. Therefore, he creates Adam and Eve together. That's not just about marriage. It's about us as human beings. We're meant to be in community. So when we talk about you are what you love, about our desires and our formation, we're talking about things that happen in community, that happen in the church, the people of God. All these things have to be anchored in the community. Basically, what I'm saying is your desires are a direct result of the community that you surround yourself with. Maybe you've heard this before. Show me your 5 closest friends and I'll show you your future. I think that saying is pretty accurate because the people that you let into your life, that you allow to shape your desires in your heart, that's determining then what comes out of you. When you're squeezed, when you're pressed, what comes out of you? Well, probably what comes out of your 5 closest friends. I know that we're all different. We all have distinct personalities and all that. But the point is this, where you place yourself, you're gonna be shaped. Think of a sculpture. You're being formed slowly over time, all the time, 24/7. Your habits, your desires, your stories, they're being shaped by what's around you, by who is around you. And therefore, we want to be formed into the image of Jesus in community. Community, 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 community. That's actually the vision statement of our youth ministry. We're on a journey of looking more like Jesus together in community. That's who we are. So let you and I look more like Jesus in the context of this community. That's what we're talking about with this series. Think of John 10 when Jesus says that he is the shepherd, that he's a good shepherd and we're like the sheep. Here's the cool thing is that even in a really hard year like 2020 or 2021, Jesus is our shepherd. Maybe you feel like the enemy has gotten access to you this year. Maybe you've had a lot of disappointments or hurts and you're thinking, I don't know what to do about this. Well, let me just say that Jesus is our shepherd and he protects us. He protects us if we stay inside of the flock. If we're in the community of God, then we're gonna be protected. Now, will we make mistakes? Absolutely. Will we hurt each other? Probably so. But Jesus is the good shepherd who watches the gate. He is the gatekeeper. When we're in the community, we're protected from the schemes of the enemy. It's just that we are very wayward sheep, right? Sometimes we wander out of the community, but Jesus is always there to come and find us and pursue us and bring us back into the place where we belong, namely the community. Community, 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 community. Who is my community? Now, of course, the easy answer, if you're watching this, is, I don't know, youth group, right? But let me just say, God's not really looking for the textbook scripted answers. It's easy to say, oh, well, youth group, church, right? But really ask yourself, reflect on this. Who is your community? Who's the community that is the most influential and impactful in your life? Which community shapes your desires? For some of us, that community is gonna be church, it's gonna be youth group. And for others, it's gonna be my family, or maybe a particular friend group at school. Maybe it's the place that you work. Maybe it's an online gaming community. I don't know, it could be anything. What is your community? Better way to ask that is, who is your community? Who are the people that you've allowed to shape you, your desires, your habits, your stories? This is a really important question because whichever community you give yourself to, it's gonna shape you. So we've got to make sure that the community that we are a part of is good for our soul, for our bodies, for our thoughts and minds and habits. Second question, what's your next step in this community? I really believe that the church is God's eternal purpose. It says that in Ephesians 3:11. The church is God's plan A for redeeming the world, and there's not a plan B. And so we have to be asking ourselves all the time, what's my next step when it comes to this community, the people of God, the church? What's your next step in our youth ministry? How can you be more faithful in this community? How can you give yourself to this community in a greater way? Reflect on that. Think about that. Have you been giving yourself to this community? Does your D group feel like, yeah, this person's giving themselves in this community? Are you being shaped by our leaders? Are you being shaped by one another? These are really important questions to ask ourselves. And then to ask God, what is my next step? How can I be more given to this youth ministry, to this church community? The last reflection question, how can I take ownership of this community? See, here's the thing about taking ownership. There's a big difference between renting and owning. The value is totally different of whatever we're talking about. Because if I rent something, let's say I rent a car. Well, I have fun in that car. It's great. I try not to wreck it. But I also don't really mind about cleaning up in there. Why? Because it's not mine. If I go on a trip to the beach and rent a car, I'm gonna get that sand everywhere in that car because who cares? I'm not the one who's cleaning it. It's not mine. There's no value in that car for me because I'm just renting it. If I own it, then man, you better believe I'm gonna take care of that thing because the value is there. The value is in the ownership. So let me ask you this. Have you been renting this youth ministry? Or have you been taking ownership? You see value in this youth ministry. The way that you come to the table, are you bringing ownership? Are you valuing this community? 2021 is a year to take ownership. To say, yeah, I'm gonna own this community because I know that it's gonna shape my desires and my habits and my stories. Because I know that I am what I love, and this community is gonna determine what I love. So in conclusion, I'm gonna remind you that we are a community that's on a journey of becoming more like Jesus together. How are we gonna do it? We're gonna do it through discipleship, by looking more like Jesus, by following him. We're gonna do it through hospitality. We're gonna be hospitable towards one another, welcoming one another, opening our lives to one another. We're gonna do it through mission, by bringing people into this beautiful community. Community. It's gonna happen in the little things like love, like welcoming each other, like having faithful presence, showing up for the big moments, through generosity with each other, through serving each other, just like Jesus washed the feet of his disciples. I believe that this community has a unique stamp from the person of the Holy Spirit. We are marked by him to be a new creation community where our desires are formed, are realigned, recalibrated to the person of Jesus. We're called to be different, to stick out from the world and have something to give, have some love to give to one another. I love this community. Now let's own it this year. All right, everybody, we're gonna see you right here on this YouTube channel tonight at 7 p.m. Can't wait to see you guys. Have a great day.